I'm really in the last part of my 20s and simultaneously trying to deal with the very evident changes and bouts of concern I'm dealing with, because there has been a lot of moments, and there continue to be, where I try to walk by faith and then I panic and I ask God, what is actually going on here? And we shouldn't we shouldn't put ourselves in positions where we are pushing a process to go quicker than it could be or than it should be. You just gotta learn to accept that a thing is the way it is, and that you need to use what you have at your disposal in responsible ways, in healthy ways, in the best ways for you. You have got to know what you want, and you've got to be very comfortable with what you want and with not backing down on what you want. We do make concessions. We 100% will be open to, and you should be open to, exploring the other person's perspective, but don't betray yourself in the process. Hi community, welcome back to acupfulll. Thank you so much for joining me. So I turned 28 on the 4th of December, which already feels like it was such a long time ago. And I will be turning 29 in 5 months. I want to speak to the manager, because where has the time gone? Where has the time gone? It's so wild. I cannot believe that I just said what I just said. In 5 months' time, in 5 months and maybe a week or two, I am going to be turning 29. And I am going to be so honest with you. I'm very nervous, but I'm also very excited. So it's two things at the same time. And I really thought it would be fitting to talk about the late 20s in this week's episode. I'm trying to savor each moment because, my gosh, I'm really in the last part of my 20s and simultaneously trying to deal with the very evident changes and bouts of concern I'm dealing with, because there has been a lot of moments, and there continue to be, where I try to walk by faith and then I panic and I ask God, what is actually going on here? What is going on in the House of Commons, in Tito's House of Commons? What is happening? But something else that I really love that has happened is this maturity. I'm enjoying the maturity that I'm experiencing, the maturity that I have stepped into, and this decisiveness that I never really had in my early or even mid-20s. And I just appreciate that all of this change that I'm experiencing, it's coming with a lot of good aspects to it. So I'm really grateful, and I'm grateful for the perspective that I have, because even though I'm getting older, and that is a little bit terrifying, I can see the fruits of, I want to say, my labor, and not necessarily in terms of material, but in terms of putting in the work into things like working through some of the things that were really standing in the way of me being the best version of myself, the traumas and the fears as a result, and so forth. So yeah, if there is one thing that is for absolute certain, is that I know who I am as well, which I really love. I know what I want for myself from this point moving forward. And I'm owning up to my decisions, both good and bad, which I truly love for myself. So yeah, this is such a interesting time for me to be in. I'm just still stuck on the fact that I turned 28 not so long ago, and now I'm going to be turning 29. And I want to also say something else. It just feels like the time is moving so much more quicker now that I'm coming to the end of my 20s. At some point or another, it felt like time was moving really, really slowly. And it's also just so interesting to think that when I turn 30 next year, I'm going to be saying goodbye to, wow, I don't want to sound dramatic, but I am going to be saying goodbye to 10 years of my life that I spent growing and changing some more and changing again. And I'm going to be saying hello to a new decade that going to get to experience differently and to change some more and to grow some more. So just sitting here and thinking about it and talking about it, it's just like, whoa, what is going on? Is this really my life? It truly is. But yeah, I look at myself and I can also say for sure that I'm very proud of myself. There is so much that has gone into becoming the woman that I have become, that I am becoming. And there are so many people that I have to thank for that. I have God to thank for that. I have the people that love me and care about me and have supported me to thank for that. And I also have myself to thank for that, because there have been moments where I've just been like, I'm not sure if I want to be doing this anymore. I'm not sure if this is worth it. I'm not sure if the constant battles are where it's at, but I'm glad that I've chosen the things that I've chosen in the ways that I've chosen them. And please, when I say I had days where I was like, I'm not sure if I can do this, it wasn't that I was wanting to unalive myself. It was just that I was like, this path that I'm walking on, this one that I know I should be walking on, this one that's very difficult. Yo, I'm not so sure, hey? But yeah, I've decided, and I know that what is the truth for me is I want what God wants for me, and that's not the path that we are always encouraged to take by the world or by people who aren't necessarily in alignment with the Lord. You know, we live in a world and we live in a time where people value and idolize things, money, titles, and so forth. So, where I'm at right now, the path that I'm choosing to follow is not conventional. It's not what the world encourages. It's not always cool. It's not always easy. It's not always fun, but it's worth it. It's worth it for my peace of mind. It's worth it for my soul, which is gonna cross over to the other side. Yes, I do believe in that. I absolutely do believe in that. This body of mine is just but a vessel. This flesh, it stays behind, and when I die and I pass on, I'm a crossover. My soul's going over. So that's what matters. That's what's important. And so I don't want to focus so much on pleasing my flesh all the time that I forget that I have a soul to take care of, a soul to nurture, to nourish, to ask God to help me nurture and nourish. So yeah, I also spoke about changes. So what changes am I dealing with? I want to let everyone in on this. Girls that are in their early 20s, that are in their mid 20s, girls that are going to be stepping into their late 20s in the next year, in the next two. I want you to listen up. I want you to have courage. I want you to be bold. I want what I'm going to share with you to be things that you should be thinking about if you haven't yet. I want you to be encouraged and to know that whatever you're feeling, whatever confusion, whatever frustrations, whatever constant character building that you are experiencing, it is for your own good, and don't shy away from it and don't run away from it. This is all part of growth and of becoming a formidable woman. And I'm not talking about formidable in terms of your achievements, your accomplishments, the material that you end up acquiring. I'm talking about your spirit. I'm talking about your soul. I'm talking about your mind, your emotional intelligence, your ability to face life without running to substances, without running away and trying to soothe yourself by getting into a relationship or a romantic relationship or a friendship. Just dealing with life boldly. And I hope that this is going to encourage you. So, one of the biggest changes that I've been dealing with for a while now, I'm walking towards a year of going through this change, and the best change that has happened to me is my faith, getting closer to God and working on being intentional about strengthening my relationship with the Lord. This has been, again, I'm going to say it again, this has been one of the best changes I have experienced in my 20s. I've experienced quite a few changes, but this one is the best one, and I know that it's always going to be the best thing that has happened to me. Just building a relationship with God and being very, very, very serious about it has done wonders for my self-image, for my self-esteem, my self-confidence, for how I treat myself, how I allow other people to treat me, how I see myself, what I allow in my life, in my space, and what I choose not to allow. There's this understanding, this very deep understanding, this incredible epiphany that comes, multiple epiphanies probably, I should say, multiple epiphanies that come with being in a relationship with God. And when I started to really get to a very intimate place with the Lord, something in me, in my heart, in my mind changed how I perceive myself and what I think I deserve, what I thought I deserved. That changed for real. And I have such a different appreciation for myself. I cherish myself a lot more now. And that comes from seeing myself through God's eyes. And how do I see myself through God's eyes? By reading the Bible and by being curious and asking Him questions and having conversations with Him, talking to Him in my heart, talking to Him out loud when I'm alone in my room or when I'm alone in the house, talking to Him through prayer. So that has really done wonders. It has done wonders, and I'm so grateful for God and the role that He plays, that He continues to play in my life. Another thing is my career. So I'm really leaning into doing what I actually want to do and what I can see God is calling me to do. And I'm not panicking or stressing about whether it is going to work out or not. Okay, no. I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I do, but it's not as bad as it used to be. Sometimes I do be panicking and I do be worrying, and I'm just like, what's going on? What is happening? Where are you, Lord? But you know what? The one thing that I hold on to is that if He has called me to do it, then He will make provisions for it. And you know what? I'm not going to question the Lord about it. All I can do is ask Him for guidance. All I can do is walk where He tells me to walk. And that's really about it. I just have to have faith and have confidence in Him. Another thing is my body. So the girls that are in their late 20s, no, it's changing. It's changing again. It changed when I went from being in my teens to my 20s, my early 20s. It changes throughout your 20s, and now it's changing again. I'm in my grown woman phase, for real, era, for real. The curves are coming in here and there. And with that is also a confidence that's coming in. But I can also say that that definitely does come from, as I previously mentioned, just understanding how God sees me, that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and that I am enough as I am, and that I don't need to put pressure on myself to have a specific looking body, to jump on or hop onto a trend, small waist, big booty, because that is what that is as well. And that's an unfortunate thing that women have to deal with. But you also have to then decide whether you're going to let it consume you or not. And yeah, you've got to just fight, because I know on social media everywhere we see that this body is the in thing, this kind of body shape is the hot thing, and people are getting 360 lipos and BBLs, and yeah, and some people are wearing waist trainers to have a small waist so that their booties can be accentuated more and their curves can be accentuated more. But girls, let's be for real, it is a trend. It's going to change again. We are going to go through another phase where this body type is the in thing and this body type isn't. So I have just had to learn to be content with my own body. I am quite petite and I don't really have like serious curves, but the curves are coming in all the right places. And I'm just having to accept that my body looks how it looks, and I should love it as it is, and I should embrace it and be bold and confident and be grateful for what God has given me, because it is enough. I don't need to go and add anything or take anything away from it. Another big thing has been my skin. And it's so weird that I have come to a place where I'm just like, it's weird for me because I'm realizing a lot of things as well about myself. I have struggled with acne for a really, really long time. And when I say a long time, I'm talking my preteen years. I was in grade 6 when I started dealing with acne. That was back in 2008. That was a long time ago. So I have struggled with my skin and feeling very insecure for a long time. It really knocked my confidence out. I had such low self-esteem. I was comparing myself a lot to other girls growing up, and then other women now in my 20s, especially my earlier 20s. And now I'm dealing with, on my skin, a lot of very stubborn hyperpigmentation, so very stubborn marks from acne that I've had for years now. And what I'm learning to do is to embrace my skin and just take care of it. I am trying very, very hard as well to not, because I also had a stage. I was about to say not, but I'm being very honest. So I had a phase last year where I was like buying skin products. I was buying so many skin product recommendations that I was seeing on TikTok, and I was just in such a hurry to get rid of my hyperpigmentation. And then I ended up breaking out so badly because I was using too many products on my skin, and my skin is also sensitive, and that caused more hyperpigmentation. So I caused more issues for myself. So yeah, that's what comparison pushes you to do, to want to force the process of a thing. But I've decided that that's not something I'm going to do anymore. I'm not going to lean into that anymore. I am going to embrace my skin, embrace myself, and take care of myself better, because that's the best thing that I can do. Just know what triggers my skin, know what I don't need to be putting on my face, which skin products are not good for me, and use what works for me. And that's just about it. The rest, I'm just going to have to hand over to time. There's nothing else that I can do about it. And we shouldn't put ourselves in positions where we are pushing a process to go quicker than it could be or than it should be. You just got to learn to accept that a thing is the way it is, and that you need to use what you have at your disposal in responsible ways, in healthy ways, in the best ways for you. And another thing is just the fact that I have lost the desire for quite a few things. I know that growth comes with loss as well, and that is definitely something that is happening in my life at the moment. The first thing is social media. So I deleted my Instagram account last week, but I had logged off of the app on the 1st of January. And I did that. I initially logged off because I wanted to just gain a little bit of perspective, really understand what it was I was doing on that app, how it was benefiting me. I am also at a place, which I think a lot of us do get to at some point or another, where you question your motives behind doing certain things, and where you want to be participating in certain things for a reason. So I've definitely, this maturity that I was talking about, I am at a place where if a thing is not going to be benefiting me in healthy ways, and it's not going to be adding to my life in good ways, if it's going to be taking away from my peace, from my happiness, from my well-being, if it's something that I don't enjoy doing anymore, I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to force myself to do it just because of other people are doing it. I'm not going to force myself to do it because it's the in thing to be, for me to be doing. And I also don't want it to seem like I'm not someone that's willing to make compromises. You know, sometimes something is not going to particularly be of benefit for you, or yeah, it's just not something that you have decided or chosen to do, but there are some concessions that you're going to have to make because you have other people around you. You might have to attend this ceremony, or you have to go into this place because your loved one needs your help, or whatever the case may be. So I'm not saying that everything is me, but I am saying that there are some things that I just am not willing to be doing anymore, participating in, looking at, watching. So yeah, social media is one of those things. I don't have a Twitter account anymore. I think I might have deleted that either 2022 or early last year. I can't really remember, but I haven't had that for a long time. Disconnected from that a while ago. And then, like I said, Instagram, not really. And obviously I do have TikTok, that is for the Acupfulll podcast, where I post snippets, but really that's about it. And that's just the place that I've come to in my life, where social media no longer has, or no longer plays the big role that it used to in my life. And I'm content with that. I'm fine with that. It's just really not a big thing for me right now. That might change. I might decide that I want to start posting on TikTok in my personal capacity. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, it's just a place that I've come to after stepping back and gaining perspective. I realized that I don't want to be on social media in a personal capacity moving forward. Perhaps it's just for this chapter of my life. Perhaps it's forever. Right now it's looking like forever though, because yeah, I don't really see a value in it. Another thing is how I see and approach friendships. I used to have a lot of people that I would refer to as my friends, but I didn't really understand what friendship meant. And I mean, in your earlier 20s, you know, there's just young and free, and I had that experience anyway. I speak for myself, where you're kind of just like getting along with everyone, especially because, you know, it's that tertiary phase, university, college. So you're just really still trying to figure yourself out, and really everyone is your friend. So I couldn't even I didn't really have acquaintances and friends. Everyone was my friend. But now I can distinguish between who a friend is, what a friendship is, and what an acquaintanceship is. and what just a hi and a bye, or just a cordialness is. So yeah, I see friendship very differently. It's something very special. It's something that requires time and effort and being intentional and work. It requires work and alignment between you and that person. If you're a friend group, between you and those people. So I see friendships differently and I approach them very differently, and it's no longer about the quantity but more about the quality. And then obviously romance as well. That's just something that has done, is it 180 or 360? I can never really tell. I usually just put them in the same category, but it's really been a complete 180 for me. I hope that's the right one. I got standards now. I also think that romantic love is something so precious and so special, and it shouldn't be rushed into, but it also isn't something that should take either party, whether a man or a woman, 10 years to figure out if this is the person that they're trying to spend the rest of their life with. I understand that it also takes being intentional and being aligned when it comes to values, to morals, to future plans, and just possessing a certain level of maturity and an understanding of the self. I really do get that now. So yeah, and as I said, I know who I am now more than ever, and so there are things that I'm just not going to tolerate. There are things that I'm not willing to back down on, and there are things that are non-negotiables. So it's very, very important to be good with yourself when you are looking at exploring something like romantic relationship, friendship. And I mentioned this in the love series that I did in the month of May. If you haven't listened to that, please go and check that out, where I said in both episodes about romantic love and love in friendship that you do have to get right with yourself. You've got to know what you want, because these are relationships that are outside of yourself. And if you are going into this space and you are wanting to form this connection with this person, you have got to know what you want, and you've got to be very comfortable with what you want and with not backing down on what you want. We do make concessions. We 100% will be open to, and you should be open to, exploring the other person's perspective, but don't betray yourself in the process. So yeah, I see romantic love in a completely different light. One thing that I can also say with the utmost confidence is it shouldn't be hard. And that's something that I wish I'd heard a long time ago, that romantic love shouldn't be difficult. You shouldn't be fighting tooth and nail, be in a war at battle for it to work. It's obviously going to take work and it will take effort from both parties. But when that is happening, of course, and all of the other things that I mentioned, alignment in values and morals, in faith, then you're going to be good and things will move along. It's not going to be complicated. It's not going to take forever. And that's also, I just gotta say it, that's also something that I don't like about today's culture of dating, and what is encouraged or prioritized, that you need to spend years on end getting to know a person, and that you don't need to rush. Of course you don't need to rush, but that you don't need to prioritize things like marriage, and it's really not that deep. And for someone who does appreciate the covenant of marriage and who thinks that it is important, not just for the people that are getting into it, but for society at large, it being a real foundation of good marriages, healthy healthily formed marriages, healthy love is the foundation of a strong society, because from that will come the family, and society needs the family, that unit, that structure, a healthy and well-built family structure to thrive and to survive. I don't care whether we live in a different time. I don't care whether people feel like it's not a liberated way of being, that there are multiple perspectives. That's fine. We can have multiple perspectives. People can have their own beliefs. But that doesn't mean that it should take away from the truth of the fact that healthy marriage, healthy family, healthy society. Healthy. I'm not just saying getting into a marriage for the convenience of it, having kids for the convenience of it, but I don't like that it's just kind of okay for example, a man to be with a woman for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, and 2 kids will come out of that, 3 kids will come out of that, and he's just still not willing to commit. There is no foundation there. It doesn't matter how we try and twist it around, there isn't a foundation. And you cannot tell me that two people loving each other is the foundation. It's just not enough. It isn't enough. There is so much more that goes into healthy love. And it isn't just love within itself. There are many other things. So I don't know if that made sense, but I said what I said either way. So yeah, that's definitely another thing that has changed. The other one is the fact that I'm picturing my future often, and there are things that I know I want for certain, for sure. There is no way that I look into my future and I don't see those things happening for me. So yeah, there's just like a certainty that is happening in my life right now that I appreciate. There are still some things that I'm wondering about, which is what I want to get into now, the bouts of concerns that I mentioned. There have been many moments where I felt like things just aren't coming together for me, and in those moments, I will really get thrown off. I'll question everything. I will wonder if I'm in the right place and if I'm doing the right thing, wondering if I should perhaps pursue a much different path, career-wise, and just asking myself when things are going to happen, questioning my capabilities, looking at my peers and just wondering, when am I going to get here? When is this going to happen for me? So yeah, those are things that I have been dealing with. Those are the things that have been really scary, especially now that I'm at the end of my 20s, or I'm reaching the end of my 20s. But I'm getting better now, I will say that, because although I still have the concerns, I don't give it as much space in my head anymore or airtime. But yeah, it does still happen. I'm working on focusing on where I am and what God has put in front of me, and not giving space to things that I shouldn't be worrying about, or that I just shouldn't be giving too much room to, taking too seriously. For example, something else, moving out of home, that has been a big thing. It's been a big thing for me, but that has been like from my mid-20s that I really used to worry about and obsess about a lot. And I'm going to be getting into that topic. I'm going to be going a lot deeper into that topic for the remainder of June. So please come back and listen to those episodes. I would really, really appreciate it. But that's something else that I've had to come to accept and understand, and just appreciate that I'm not at a place in my life where I am going to be moving out of home. And I've accepted that, and I understand that. And even the conversations I've had with God, the conversations I've had with my mom, with my one friend who's going to be coming onto the podcast, I ain't gonna say too much. You're just gonna have to come back and listen. It's really helped me. It's given me perspective. Talking to people that love you, people that have different insights, the same insight is always good. And so that's been really, really helpful. But yeah, overall, what I can say is that I'm grateful for God. I'm grateful for God's timing. I look back on my life, on various chapters. I go back various chapters in my life, and I can see God's hand, God's blessings. And if he could do it back then there's absolutely no reason why he's not going to be able to do it again. Probably bigger, probably better. So I would rather wait on the Lord. Right now, I have been reading the book of Genesis, and I'm almost at the end, and I've been reading about Joseph's story, and it is incredible how God's timing plays out in that story, and how God's will and God's plans for Joseph and his family, they just all come together, and they're so beautiful. And it's such an intentional thing that the Lord did with Joseph's entire family by using him. But what is even more incredible is the fact that he waited. He went through so much, but he still waited on God. He didn't try and figure it out on his own. He didn't try and go to other people to help him figure it out. He waited on God. And what is also incredible about Joseph's story is it goes way back when, to his father, to his grandfather rather, Abraham. And if you read the book of Genesis, you will see that the way that the Lord was making things happen for that entire family, it was so intentional, and it was just so incredible. That story is one of the most phenomenal stories I've read in the Bible. And I know I haven't read the entire Bible. I will get there. But right now, it's just one of the most incredible stories that I've seen and that I've read, where I've seen the Lord do the utmost and do it perfectly and do it intentionally. So I say all of that to say that it might feel like you are stuck or that things are not moving. But whether you believe in God or not, and I do hope that if you're somebody that doesn't believe in God, that you will begin to question that you will begin to be curious about leaning into understanding the Lord better, leaning into your faith. I just want you to remember that God's way will always be the better way. God knows what he's doing in your life. Even if you don't understand what I'm saying right now, if you do, that's incredible. I'm glad that you do. But even if you don't understand, and I've been in a place where I didn't really get it, because it just felt like God had left me and he had abandoned me and I was alone, God's plans for your life will always be better. You just have to go to him, and you have to surrender yourself to him and surrender your plans to him and ask him that his will be done in your life. He knows what he's doing. He always has, and he always will. He's gone ahead of you already. He has. So, yeah, I'm just going to trust in the Lord when it comes to my life. It says in the book of Proverbs, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. And then it also says in Jeremiah 29 verses 11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. And then in the book of Luke, chapter 1, verses 37, it says that for no word from God will ever fail. And that is just it. God is a good God. He's a loving God, and his word will never fail. He's a promise keeper. Please go back and read Genesis if you haven't. If you have and maybe you've forgotten, please go and read it. His word did not fail when it came to Abraham's family. Joseph was Abraham's grandson, and it took centuries for things to come together, or for the big promise, or for various promises to be fulfilled. Other promises were fulfilled in between, but for the one promise that God made to that family, it took some time for it to be fulfilled, but it was fulfilled. So That's another thing that you've got to remember, and that you've got to lean on God's timing. When he is ready to make it happen, he will. He knows what he's doing, though. He absolutely knows what he is doing. So please be encouraged. Please remember that your life is going to work out just as it should, and that you don't need to push for anything. You don't need to rush. You don't need to step on people's heads to kick people so that you can get to where you think you need to be going. You just gotta wait and be patient and be obedient. Yeah, I feel like that was quite a mouthful, but I really hope you enjoyed this episode. This is definitely where we're ending it. Thank you so much for joining me. I will possibly record another episode either just before I turn 29 or just after. I'm not sure. So maybe that will happen. Maybe it won't. But thank you again for joining me. Thank you so much for your support. I truly do appreciate it. I appreciate it with all of my heart. When I started this podcast, I was just trying to talk about my trials and tribulations and experiences and my wins and the growth and the changes that I was experiencing in my 20s. But this has become something completely different, where I just feel like I just want to share my growth in general. And if that goes into my 30s, then it does. I don't know what plans God's got, but I trust him either way. And I'm just grateful that I can be here and that I can be a vessel for him in this life, on this podcast, just in general. If you are wanting to put anyone on, please let them know that they can listen to A Cupful on all listening platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music. And if they want to test the waters first, they can head over to TikTok. The handle is at A Cupful Pod. I post snippets of the episodes on there, so maybe that will tickle their fancy and they will go on ahead and go and listen to the podcast, to episodes in their entirety. Something else that I haven't really been asking, actually, please follow the podcast. If you are having a good time here on whichever listening platform you are listening from, please follow the podcast. Please rate the podcast, because when you rate it, then more people find out about it. It reaches more people. Share it on WhatsApp, share the link on WhatsApp, share it on Instagram, on your stories. A Cupful is not on Instagram anymore, but it is on TikTok. Share it on your stories, share the link. Be generous, don't be shy, be generous. Please have a lovely remainder of the week. Rest when you need to, work when you need to. Be kind to yourself and be kind to other people. And girl or guy, whoever is listening, please do not feel pressured by the world about where you are in your life. This is your life, and God knows exactly what he is doing. And most importantly, don't forget to keep doing the things that fill your cup.